Hi, this is Stephen from OWNorDisown. In this Newegg sponsored video, I showcase how the new Gigabyte G5 performs across 11 games using ultra and low settings to see what type of scaling we get when we lower quality settings. I have finished all of my testing on the G5 and I think it is one of the best value laptops out there right now. My review unit has a 6-core i5 10500H CPU, has an RTX 3060 that boosts up to 105 watts and a 240Hz panel, 16GB of RAM, and it only costs $1,100. Newegg have the same one listed through a third-party seller for $1,350, and I think that's still a fair price for the performance you get. Now the full review will follow shortly, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. Now all of the benchmarks were done using their performance preset and also using the auto fan. So this does represent, a worst case scenario for the thermals, but in my opinion, their quiet mode actually provides most reasonable thermals and decent frame rates with barely any fan noise at all. So Far Cry New Dawn was tested using the inbuilt benchmark, and it's a tough game to get the GPU fully saturated, even a 3060. Indoor scenes, you will see the CPU power drop towards 40 watts, which allows the 3060 to get close to the max 105 watts boost, but outdoor scenes use the CPU much more, and it's for this reason I like this game to showcase the CPU thermals. Dropping to low settings from Ultra nets a 20% boost in frame rate, which isn't too shabby. Even those outdoor scenes saw about a 25% boost, so the 10500H CPU does seem to be doing a decent job here. Battlefield 5 was tested using DX11 during a 64-player game using the Rotterdam map. The CPU uses about 55 watts in this game with the performance mode preset, so consequently there isn't enough power to get the GPU to boost all the way up to 105 watts. But that being said, the frame rate was good, averaging 103 FPS at older settings, which is actually 12% faster than the 3070 found in the $1,800 Zephyrus G15. Think about that for a second. This $1,100 Gigabyte G5 with an RTX 3060 with an Intel CPU is 12% faster than the much more expensive Ryzen based RTX 3070 that uses up to 100 watts. And I will do a separate video showcasing the difference, but what this G5 gives up in beauty, it certainly makes up in brawn. Now dropping to low settings does give an 18% improvement, so again we see decent scaling. In Cyberpunk 2077, I tested using ray tracing at ultra and DLSS set to balanced, and also using low settings. Even with those tough settings, you get very playable frame rates, certainly comparable to a 2070 Super. GPU utilization is 99%, and you see the CPU lower its power to 24 watts, allowing the 3060 to boost all the way up to 105 watts. Using low settings puts less onus on the GPU, so the power to the CPU goes to 50 watts and the 3060 then drops to the 75 to 85 watt mark, and you get less GPU utilization. But nothing that suggests a CPU bottleneck, and as a result you do see very good scaling. In Stranding, I tested using ultra high with both DLSS set to performance and DLSS off. Now there isn't a huge performance difference here. Using DLSS puts more pressure on the CPU. As you can see, the 10500H goes from 75% utilization to 85%, and the GPU usage goes down. Also, I tested using low settings with DLSS set to ultra performance, and this showcases that the CPU then starts to struggle to feed the 3060, whose boost clock goes up from around the 1635 MHz to about 1950 MHz with little gain in frame rate. So, as you can see, low settings and ultra high are basically the same. Now getting a 240Hz panel is also very good at this price point, and I saw no ghosting, nor did it have any backlight bleed. The keys are one zone RGB backlit, but they are bright and you can choose whatever colour you want, and I think in some markets you can also get per key RGB. Gigabyte also gives you great fan control. Pressing the FN and one key activates the max fan, or you can even adjust the fans for the GPU and the CPU separately. Now competing systems are using the 4-core 11th gen CPU, which I think is a great mistake. Now this G5 performs much better than the Asus DASH F15 with a 3070, not only in gaming but also in CPU work. Now the only downside being is the shorter battery life, which I saw about 3¾ hours, and that's pretty low by today's standards. Now Gigabyte also has the option for the i7-10878 CPU, which if you want an 8-core CPU. Now many games see about a 20% increase in performance dropping to low settings, but some like The Witcher 3 and Watch Dogs Legion scale very well indeed. Anyway, I hope you found that video useful. Remember, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the full review. Thanks for watching. Bye now.